Hi everyone! Just a reminder, the information I share is not meant to replace or substitute that of licensed professionals. If you, your child, or your family are experiencing a crisis or need help beyond the scope of what we share here, please seek professional help. I get a lot of complaints from parents about how their children violate their boundaries, things like privacy, pushing the limits, challenging them on things, breaking rules. And I get concerns about their children violating the boundaries of others. Things like not sharing, poking, hitting, or getting into another child or other person's space and space. They tell me how they talk to their child, tell them that these things are not okay, sometimes punish them, reprimand them, and force consequences, but their child still continues to violate boundaries. And they ask, what else can I do? Why won't my child listen to me? Why do they keep doing these things? So one of the first things I share with my clients is that many of the boundary pushing and violating behavior our children do, depending on their age, is actually a normal part of the developmental process. I can go into more of that in a future video if you would like. You can let me know in the comments if that's something you would be interested in. And for now, I just want to share that children need to learn about themselves, others, and life. And one of the ways they do this is by challenging the status quo, experimenting with boundaries, theirs and others, and yes, in trying to get their way. Not as in being selfish, but rather that by knowing what they want and fighting for it, they have to learn to deal with others who also want to get their way, and then they learn how to negotiate and find a solution. So these are just a few examples of developmental process normalcy, and I can do an entire video on this subject and what that look and sounds like at a later video. So after I talk about normal developmental processes with my family and my clients, one of the first things I ask them is, are you valuing, honoring, and respecting your child's boundaries? I often get a lot of confused looks when I ask this. Some because they simply never thought about it before, many because they think and believe that their child should either know better, especially when they've been told not to do the things they've been doing, or because they think and believe their child should just follow the rules, and even some who think and believe that they're children, they don't have a say. Now, obviously, yes, some rules and behaviors are non-negotiable, particularly when it comes to their safety and the safety of others. And even those rules and behaviors are subject to what I want to share here. Now, on the topic of punishing them, while it may work in the moment, will more often than not make your child feel ashamed. In the moment, we are angry, frustrated, embarrassed, insulted, and or we feel disrespected by what our child has said or done. And we will typically impulsively default to punishment because those feelings of emotions, anger, frustration, embarrassment, insult, and or feeling disrespected in the moment have initiated the fight, flight, and freeze response in us, though it's mostly fight in this instance, and we automatically react rather than respond. What punishing fails to do is to teach them the appropriate behavior we would like them to do instead. Punishment can also set them up for allowing and tolerating having their boundaries violated when they get older, being disrespected, and potentially being abused. And I'll share more on that later. I am not saying that we just let our child do as they please or that we do nothing about it. And consequences that relate directly or as close as possible to the behavior will be far more effective, especially in the long run. Imagine if at work, let's say you messed up on a procedure and your boss came in, no conversations or questions asked, and took a full day of PTO from you. Did that help you understand where you messed up? Would you have felt okay with not being given an opportunity to have a discussion about what happened? Would your boss taking a full day of PTO seem a relatable consequence to what happened? Would you have learned anything about what to do to repair and or do differently next time? So one of the next things I discuss with my clients is about their expectations and whether those expectations are realistic. Expectations you need to be able to base it on your child, their age, their skills, their capacities, and a whole host of other things like that. So it's really important to maybe sometimes step back and ask yourself, If this reaction that you're having, a response that you're having, is it based on your expectations, and are they realistic? Honoring your child's boundaries now teaches them how to hold and enforce them in the future. Here are two examples of when we and where we may be violating our child's boundaries. If your child does not want to hug, kiss, or get a hug or kiss from someone, or shake their hand, honor that. If your child doesn't want to sit on someone's lap, whether it's a family, a friend, a seasonal character, Santa, the Easter Bunny, honor that. If your child doesn't want to talk to someone or play with someone, honor that. It's not necessarily that they're shy, disrespectful, stubborn, or bratty. They are, in that moment, not feeling safe or comfortable and shying away from another person, hiding, crying, refusing to comply. That's their way of trying to protect themselves. When we force them to comply, we send the message that the emotions and feelings that they are having at the time do not matter. We also teach them that they are required to do what those people in authority, people who tell them they love them, and people who are supposed to care and protect them, tell them to do. We teach them that even if they do not feel safe in a situation, they need to do what is asked or demanded of them, something they may carry into adulthood. The next example is expecting or demanding them to comply, follow, or blindly obey us. As their parent, you hold the key to their sense of safety and well-being, and when that feels threatened, they do as they're told. When they get older and people in places of authority or people they think they can trust, those people then demand them to comply, follow, and blindly obey them, even if they may feel it's wrong. Even if they feel their sense of safety and well-being is at risk, they may do as they're told. Where you can, have a conversation with your children. Make a list of negotiables and non-negotiables. Get your child's input. Be mindful of what your child's skills, capacities, maturity level, their state of mind at the time, the environment, and your state of mind are at that time. Teach your child about what to do instead, not just telling them. Children, especially young ones, need repetition. Use redirection when necessary. If your child, let's say, is getting in the space of another child, if they are taking things or not sharing, give them a warning. Something like, we need to share, stop taking things, or we will have to leave and try again another time. When they are harming another child, remove them from that situation. Tell them that it's not okay to hurt another person, and then you can try to come back and play another time. In both scenarios, when you and your child have calmed down, have a conversation. Ask them about what was going on, what was happening, how they were feeling, and what can be done differently the next time. With younger children, they may not be able to share what was going on or happening or what they were feeling. So it's important for you to be mindful and observe what was happening and help your child navigate these things in the future. Model the behavior you want to see in your children. We've all heard the saying, action speaks louder than words, right? Children are far more likely to do as you do than as you say. Telling your children to be and behave one way and turning around and doing what you've told them not to do can send a number of messages. One, that you do not mean what you say. That even though what you do is wrong, you can go ahead and do it anyway. This is also why children will continue to do the things that you told them were wrong. Think of a time, let's say, when a boss or manager who explained the rules and expectations of the job later broke that rule or failed to do what was expected of them. What did you think or feel after that? 2, it can also send them the message that rules and what you tell them to do are just suggestions and that they can push the limits too. Let's say, have you ever exceeded the speed limit and when your child calls you on it, you explain it away? It may seem a minor thing, but children are mega sponges. They pay far more attention to what you say than what you do, and actions speak louder than words. A third example is it can cause them to distrust you and your word. I appreciate that seems harsh and may even feel like I'm going a little bit overboard here, but ask yourself if you have ever been in a situation where someone you trusted or looked up to, and they told you to be and behave in a certain way, but didn't do so themselves. What did you think? What did you feel? Did it change your thoughts or feelings about them? Did it cause you to think you could be and behave differently than they told you to? let me circle back to the complaints that parents have about respect. Looking up back on those 3 examples I just gave you about actions and behaviors contradicting words, did any of those examples cause you to lose respect for the person or persons you could relate to in those examples? Beyond reflecting on the few examples of many I gave here are a couple of other things to consider when you feel like your child or children are crossing your boundaries. Think about how you handle it when you feel like your boundaries have crossed. Remember that your children are watching you, and even if they're not seeing you, they may hear you. Try to remember you at this age. If you're someone who did as your parents told you to do, think back and ask yourself if you would have appreciated, benefited from, or simply liked your parents to have approached it differently. Okay, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, situations, or anything else I might have missed, please share them in the comments. I'd be happy to go over them and do a video again in the future. Until next time, remember, parenting is not a cookie cutter process. Meet your child where they are and grow from there. Until next time, bye-bye.